There are people who finish Minecraft in less than 10 minutes, but how do they do it? What's their secret? In this video, I'm going to explain many of the main mechanics of speedrunning, as well as the craziest and best executed mechanics I've ever seen. In case anyone is really clueless, speedruns are a kind of race where you compete to get the best time of all. You can do it in Minecraft, but they're in most games. There are many categories and a lot of memes where people try to kill a villager in the shortest time possible, but those aren't the runs I'm going to talk about. Not the sheep one either. Today we're going to focus on the mechanics of glitchless random seeds. That is, there are other categories where people try to beat the game very quickly using a seed they've already studied, but we're going to focus only on random seeds, where every run is different. It's also important to clarify that I'm going to explain mechanics from version 1.16.1, since that's the version of Minecraft where most speedruns are done, and there are several reasons for this. Piglins are very overpowered in that version, giving you better chances.
Conseguir Ender Pearls tradeándoles. Si no me equivoco, salieron en la 1.16.
They were still adjusting the drops, so that version is one where they give more Ender Pearls than usual. The second reason is that in version 1.17, they changed the heights in Minecraft, and in 1.18, they added layers below zero. All of this makes the game take longer to process certain data and therefore run slower. But anyway, without getting sidetracked, let's start explaining the first mechanics. Players tend to start runs on islands. This is because they have a higher chance of finding treasure chests. But how do they find them without a map, you might be wondering? They use a trick, which is that by pressing the key combination F3+1, it activates this circle at the bottom right. There, you can see various graphs and statistics about everything, but the one they're interested in is this one right here. And what it does is help you find the nearest entities. What for? Well, to find the treasure chest, obviously. If you want to use this, you'll have to set it up before the run starts so you don't waste time, since at first it shows you a different graph. Switch between the 0 and 1 keys to find the graph. We locate the chest using the orange section. If we see a lot, it means there's a chest nearby, since an entity is close. I just looked it up because I wasn't really sure why this works, but the chest is a block entity. It's not exactly an entity, but anyway, it works with F3 to find it. And this mechanic can also be used in other places, like in the Nether to find blaze spawners, or in the Stronghold to find the silverfish spawner. And that way find the portal room, of course. But there you're actually pointing directly at the entities that spawn. I remember back in 2020 or so when I started watching speedruns, because the time started dropping drastically. They used to be around 20 minutes, now they've dropped to 7. And what I told you about spawning on an island, I remember when that became the meta. I remember there was this kind of run they called Ocean Run, which was basically through the ocean. Well, I remember that someone got, I don't know if it was top 3 or top 1 or which one. And from then on, everyone started using that strategy because, like I said, spawning in the ocean. The trick is you can quickly find lava lakes on the ocean floor to access the Nether. You can also see that a lot of things happen in just 10 seconds, like shrinking the screen. I'll explain it to you. The black bars help the player read without distractions, prioritizing comfort over practicality. One of the most important points for speedrunning is inventory management. Inside the inventory, if you press the tab key, the recipe book icon will be highlighted, and with the spacebar you can open and close it. This is extremely useful for saving seconds at the start of the speedrun, because if you start crafting with the book open and then close it, you'll have the cursor directly on the crafted item. Like it or not, all the time you save is needed. Also, when you're about to make the crafting table and sticks, another trick you can use to save some time is to right-click and left-click at the same time to pick up both the crafting table and the sticks directly. You can do this with a lot of items like tools or armor. In fact, the current world record
Está en 6 minutos 50 segundos en el momento en el que estoy grabando esto. Pues el chico
was set by someone named Loki, who has amazing inventory management. He plays the game in Danish for a reason, and that's to craft wool in record time. Watch how he does it. He presses the D key in the recipe book so that wool appears as the only craftable item, allowing him to craft it super fast. Honestly, I really love this trick. Also, a trick
típico que habréis visto hacer a la gente
is making the portal really fast, right? You do it with just one bucket, fill it with water, go to a lava lake, and by spamming and placing the blocks in the perfect spot, you can build the entire portal structure. But there's also a special trick, which is making the portal without a water bucket, just using doors and sand. How? Well, you have to go into the lava, but it's a more complex mechanic and it takes a bit longer to do. It's helpful to know it can be done so you won't get stuck, but it's even more practical. With a bucket, you just do the usual trick. By the way, in these runs where you go into lava lakes, in ravines, under the ocean, one very important thing is to use doors to breathe. That usually works really well. Or you can just use magma blocks directly. Stand on the magma block and you can breathe any way the door works well. By the way, here's an example of how some speedrunners make portals. Some do it differently than others, so I'm leaving you several examples here. Another way I found when I was looking for ideas for this video was this one, by Big Money. And it's funnier than it is practical. Obviously, you're not going to get end crystals in a run, but it's just funny how he creates a portal with lava from a village blacksmith. If you can't light the portal, what they do is place leaves on one of the sides. If you wait for them to burn from the surrounding lava, they'll light the portal. Although honestly, you'll lose some time and it's a bit random. On the other hand, if you want to get flint directly, the best way is in a river with TNT and a pressure plate. First, you place the plate, then the TNT on top. And when you swim towards it, the TNT will activate and explode underwater, since the pressure plate creates an air pocket. But if you don't have TNT, the best thing is to just place a door and dig the gravel by hand. After all, TNT isn't that common. Not all speedrunners may get it, but if you do, it's probably from a desert pyramid. To loot the pyramid as quickly as possible, when breaking the block that opens the drop, speedrunners usually place a sand block before falling all the way down. They only take half a heart of damage. The explanation is simple, and many of you likely know about this mechanic. When you place a sand block, at first the block is solid, and you can land on it, but then gravity pulls it down. This allows you to go down very quickly. You just keep spamming as you go, and that's it. Once inside the pyramid, to loot the chests, you have to do this. You were amazed, right? Yes, you can do this without mods and quickly pick up all items of the same type. I'm sure you know the usual double-click trick when picking something up from a chest, which groups all the items in the same place. There's also another trick where, for example, if you hover the mouse over the item and press, say, 1, that item will move to slot 1. But this is done by pressing shift before picking up the item, and instead of picking it up, we'll send it to the hotbar with a hotkey, which can be 1, 2, 3, or whichever one you have assigned that works best for you. Once you've done this, you click on the slot where you remove the item, press the number again, and click again. Hold the shift key during the entire sequence, which is faster than picking it up manually. This also helps optimize your inventory management. We now know all the overworld mechanics, and many are likely waiting for me to say you need villages for beds. And even though they're a big help, they're not that necessary. And in a bit, you'll understand why. Inside the Nether, there's a very basic mechanic, and that's setting your FOV, field of view, to Quake Pro, which is the maximum setting. This is done so you can see a bit farther. It's very practical. It's quite practical. I know it sounds weird, but if you ever do a speed run, try it when you enter the Nether. Set the FOV to the maximum, and you'll notice that you can see a little bit more. Look here at what No Hacks and Astroblocks do, currently top 3 in the world. In his easy Nether run, you can see a Nether, so he had to dig a bit to get to the surface and see something. Here he uses a boat and gets on it, so he has to break fewer blocks horizontally. And thanks to that, he finds the surface and a bastion right next to it. What a pro. The main thing a speedrunner has to do now is look for bastions or nether fortresses to get gold and blaze rods. If you find the bastion first, that's much better because you'll get very valuable items to speed up the run. The most important Piglin trades for a speedrun are ender pearls, string to make beds, fire resistance potions to fight blazes, obsidian to make portals, and fire charges as an alternative to flint and steel. Then there's soul sand for soul speed skating, I think that's what it's called, and to climb certain places much faster. I'll explain all of this later, and also the soul speed boots. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that it's really necessary to trade with the piglins. Regarding the fire charges, it's important to keep them in the top left, because when you open your inventory with the recipe book open, your cursor will be on top of them, and you can quickly move the item to the hotbar without moving the cursor. Then soul speed skating is this, okay? And it works because in this version, if you're on the edge of a block with soul speed, you can keep the speed it gives you even if you're not stepping on more soul sand. Now, how do I get the gold? Well, you have to study the gold block generation in Bastions, and it might sound a bit tedious, but it's really necessary to know where to go and not get lost in the Bastions. These days, you can't be a speedrunner without knowing how to handle all Bastion types. Also, each one has its own route, its own tricks, and actually, if you ever watch speedruns, you'll see that when they enter a Bastion, they know exactly what they're doing at all times. Minecraft has different Bastions, but I won't explain them all now to avoid overwhelming you. If you want a dedicated video, let me know in the comments. It's important to note that Bastions may contain hoglins, so keeping flint and steel handy, like Recrap does in this clip, helps you cancel knockback if they hit you. This is easy to understand. If you set yourself on fire before they hit you, the knockback you receive is reduced to a minimum, so you'll move much faster and you won't really burn because the fire only does 1 tick of damage. Use it with TNT to mine gold structures and not fall in the process because of the TNT's knockback. You need to time this well and practice it repeatedly to master it and ensure it always works. Once you have the gold, you need to know the best place to move the piglins so they'll start trading. The basic thing is to save 1 gold block without crafting it, so that when you're in the position you want, where the piglins will fall, you place it and break it to trigger their aggro. They'll always go after you at first, right? The aggro is already triggered, but sometimes Minecraft glitches, and it's good to have the block to make sure they come after you. Next, toss some ingots where all the piglins will land. Everyone does this. You've likely seen it many times. It's really important that you place a single block of gravel in that hole, not just to make it easier to collect the items, but also to kill the baby piglins. These keep your gold without trading, so it's best to kill them to avoid trouble. Watch how it's done in this Bastion. He throws an ender pearl at a gold block and goes through it. If you want me to show you how to go through a gold block, I recommend doing it from above without taking damage. This is just showing off for the sake of showing off. You can't get honey in a ram, but it's funny how well he has it practiced. He really trained just for the clip. Checklist. Identify repeated and redundant phrases. Remove unnecessary repetition. Summarize core instructions. Preserve intent and speaker's perspective. If you want me to show you how to go through a gold block, place a gold block and go through it. If I showed you, I'd recommend demonstrating how to make a gold block. This is the best method. Notice the speed difference. It's not just due to alternating blocks. Let me explain. Soul sand is a little shorter than the rest of the blocks, even though it looks the same visually. So when we jump on top of it, it will take us slightly less time to place the alternate block. If we combine this with pressing the spacebar every time we're going to jump instead of holding it down, we'll save a few seconds to reach the top. Before entering the fortress, it can be very helpful to throw an ender pearl at our portal and unload the chunks by lowering the render distance to 2. This will make the ender pearls stay in the chunk of our portal without loading and without teleporting us, so that when we get the rods, we can reload those chunks and teleport much faster. I have to say that this no longer works because now ender pearls load chunks by themselves. But well, in 1.16 it does work. No Fear 1337, currently the 5th best run in the world, does this mechanic perfectly. Loki also does it in his run, but I don't think it's as decisive as it was for No Fear. Inside the fortress, we'll look for a blaze spawner, and the best way to do it is the same way you find the treasure chest at the beginning, with F3. On the graph, we'll look at the orange bar and walk towards it. A tip for blaze spawners could be to use a bed at this height to break some blocks around and expand the spawn area. And if you expand it manually with soul sand, even better for 2 reasons. Blue fire doesn't give enough light to prevent blaze spawns, and soul sand makes them move and push less, so we have an advantage over them. To kill them, watch how Loki does it. He hits them with a critical using the axe first, then switches to the iron sword to land another critical and kill them in 2 hits quickly.
Posible. Esto es muy loco en realidad, lo tiene super mecanizado.
Other players like NoHacks are lucky enough to find diamonds in the treasure chest and don't have to do this. With a diamond sword and 2 critical hits, you put in less effort and kill them just as fast. But not everyone is that lucky, of course. Now that we have what we need, we'll go back to the overworld to find the stronghold. There are many tricks to find it easily using coordinates. Most players do this to find the portal. They throw an eye, zoom in, and calculate the distance to the stronghold by the angle the eye takes. You can do this manually, but there's a mod that does it for you, so it's much better. Anyway, in case someone doesn't know, the speedrun counts the time you spend in the game without pausing. When you pause, the timer also stops. At the top right, the top timer shows your run time, while the bottom displays the run's real time. And the only one that counts is the bottom one. So if a player decides to calculate the stronghold location by hand, they can do it without losing time. Many players, seeing they're far away, go to the Nether coordinates to travel faster. Remember, 1 block in the Nether equals 8 in the overworld. This mechanic is very similar to what was done a few years ago, the so-called divine travel, which consisted of calculating the stronghold using Nether fossils that appeared at 0, of course you had to be in a soul sand valley. In fact, with this same calculator, you can do both calculations, the Nether eye and the fossils. In the old records, people used to search for the stronghold by hand, and of course, it took them a long time. They had to walk, get a boat, mine. It was crazy. But with these new methods, the time drops a lot. Once you found the stronghold, we have several tips for finding the portal room. The first tip, if we hear silverfish sounds and haven't broken any infested blocks, we're very close, since we've activated the silverfish spawner that's in that room. In this other type of room, if you have a stone wall on the right, you can find hidden areas where the portal might be located. So if the orange color is marked in that direction, mine them just in case. If you have a stronghold in the ocean, the way to detect the portal room is by first checking if it has iron bars, and if not, by looking at the height of the room. Throughout the stronghold's rooms and corridors, height varies by no more than 2 blocks. There's a difference of 3, so if you mine there, you'll definitely find the portal. Now you'll see that many players decide to do this and die before completing the portal. And it's for a very simple reason, to reset their saturation and health. In a speed run, you usually have little or no food, so it's not that necessary since you can just die. Dying doesn't end the speed run, so you'll see them place blocks this way and die using ender pearls. This is done so that the items drop only on the block where you die without spreading all over the room. Simply place a bed to set your respawn point, lock yourself in, and when you respawn, your inventory is restored as if it was just a bad dream. This is usually done because they don't bring enough food, as the run is very fast. To complete the portal as quickly as possible, you have to place a block here, spam the jump key to go up the stairs, and place 1 or 2 blocks in the center of the portal, so that when you finish it, you get teleported directly to the end. Inside the end, the most essential mechanic you need to learn is how to do the 0 cycle, or the 1 cycle. And it consists of waiting for the dragon to come down to make a melee attack, and then placing beds in such a way that they explode when its head reaches the center with perfect timing. In fact, NoHacks, who currently holds 3rd place, uses this mechanic, although I think it's because he doesn't have time to do the 0 cycle, but just so you see, it's still useful. Slower, but useful. Anyway, the current meta is the 0 cycle because it's much faster, although it's much more complex to execute. Still, killing it with 4 or 5 beds is pretty easy. Try it many times in practice runs, because you see it and it looks easy. You just have to wait a moment, but getting the exact timing is very difficult. You need to repeat this several times until you master it and can defeat him in 5 beds, or 4 if you're really skilled. Now I'll explain the cycle. Basically, instead of waiting for the dragon to come down and blowing up the beds on its head, you go to an exact spot where its head will pass before coming down. So you don't have to wait for it to come down, and you can take it down right away. By the way, in all the speedruns we see the dragon comes down instantly, but that's completely random. It can take up to 4 minutes to come down. You only see the runs where that doesn't happen, not the ones where it does, and they lose the record. And well, to do the cycle, you'll need to climb up as quickly as possible to the tower closest to these coordinates you see on the screen. That is, this one right here. And once you're on top, you'll do the following. From the tower, you'll keep climbing until you reach the coordinates, x28, Y88, Z26. And then you'll climb up to height 95 and build this structure. 2 steps to the left, 1 block back, 2 blocks high, and on top and next to the last one, 2 blocks of obsidian. Respawn anchors or crying obsidian also work. On top, we'll place the bed, and when the dragon passes in front, we'll blow it up, making sure its head is as close to the bed as possible to deal more damage. You'll see a lot of people delay the dragon to damage it with an arrow and with 2 beds at the same time. Others climb the tower in some pretty unique ways, like my buddy Big Money does here, with scaffolding, with lava buckets that turn into obsidian to get the structure ready, or even with blaze charges and a hammer to fall without taking damage. But well, this is more of a joke than anything else. Another way to kill the dragon is called ground zero. Similar to the 1 cycle, you wait for the dragon to descend, but here you force it to come down. This means that if you haven't been lucky with the spawn and have to wait for it to come down, you force it to come to you. It's always good to have options in case plan A gets out of hand. You've already killed the dragon. Be careful falling, wait for the portal, and if you look at an Enderman, you'll want to smash your computer. This is something that had never happened to anyone until this guy, who was about to break the world record, accidentally looked at an Enderman and died right before breaking the record, losing the run forever and the chance at the record. By the way, this clip went super viral and it was a total tragedy in the speedrunning world. That's why players sometimes stand on 2 blocks to avoid Enderman attacks. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe. I want to reach 1 million. Thanks for watching. What was your favorite play? Let me know in the comments. Goodbye.